All right, so we're going to do area today. Simple area, straightforward area, not partial area, the whole area. So for a couple of days, we've been doing circumference, which is the distance around the circle, which we all said had a formula of circumference equals to the pi times its diameter. Agreed? Everybody agrees? We just did it. We just tested it. We just did pop quizzes on it. Now we are doing area. Area is inside the circle. It's how much does it cover. So in a circle, the area of the circle would mean how many square feet are in the circle, or square centimeters squares, or area. We found area in grade 7, the area of a square. We found the area of a rectangle. We found the area of a trapezoid. We find the area of a triangle. Today, we're finding the area of a circle. So area of a circle. And the area of a circle is what we cover inside. And we have some important information. Although we know it through the circumference, I'm going to draw a circle again. And there's a center point. Don't forget the radius goes from the center to the edge. This is your R, your radius. And then you have the diameter that goes all the way through the center, which is called the diameter. Agreed? We've all seen this. We've seen this with the circumference. It's just parts of the circle. Now, what I'm going to teach you today is the area formula. Now, what is the area formula? Does anybody know? Area equals, yes? No. Yes?
Area equals pi.
Pi, R radius, squared. Now you may have never seen this. It's pi times radius squared. And what we have to do is we've got to go find the radius to be able to find the area of any circle. For example, let's say question number 1. Question number 1 says, what is the area of a circle that has a radius of 10 centimeters? Well, when they give you a question like this is very, very straightforward. Very easy if you know the formula A equals pi r squared. Now, do I need to write the area equals pi r squared? Will you get it wrong if I don't see A? Yes, you will. So let it be told that if I don't see a formula, your answer is wrong. So first thing I want to see is this. Now, what do I know about this formula? What part do I know about this formula? Yes?
The radius.
The radius. Here it is. Boom, boom, boom. Radius is 10. So I'm going to replace the radius by 10 and put a little 2 on top, which means squared. And by the way, if you know order of operation, what do you do first? Brackets, then exponents. So this has to be done before you multiply by the pi. And once you get that, your answer will be your area. So what I'm going to do, the next step I'm going to do, so watch for the next step. Watch for the next step. The next step will be 10 times 10. 10 times 10. Not 10 times 2. This is itself. 10 times 10, which happens to be 100, multiplied by pi, which we all know is 3.14. So if you feel like writing 3.14 and you're scared of that symbol, please do so. And then you take your calculator. Now's the time to take the calculator out and do pi times 100 or 3.14, and you've got the area answer of 314. And because it's area, what do you think my unit is going to be? Centimeter squared. Perfect. Done. You guys are great. So, question number 2. Let's make it a tad harder. Ready? Question number 2. I'm going to ask you for the area, but I'm not going to give you the radius. I'm going to give you the diameter. So the diameter is equal to 10. What's the first thing that I'm going to do? First, yes, the formula. A equals pi r squared. And when I look at my formula, I see that there's no radius, there's no diameter. What am I going to do with this piece of information since it's not part of my formula? What am I going to do with this piece of information? Divide it by 2 because the radius is half of the diameter. So on the outside of my formula, on the outside right here, I'm going to be like, oh, diameter's 10. Therefore, the radius has to be 5. And how easy is that? Because the diameter is the longer one, and the radius is half of that one. It's just a half divided by 2. Anytime you have the diameter, you definitely know your radius. Anytime you have your radius, you definitely know your diameter. So in this case, I'm going to take my radius, this one here, and put 5 here, squared, which is what I'm going to do first. So is it 5 times 2 or is it 5 times 5? 5 times 5 is 25. Then I'm going to multiply it by the pi. And now I'm going to get this answer, which is the area, 78.5. And we'll always think it's centimeters, so centimeter squared. I'll give you a minute to look at this, to write it down, to raise your hand and ask me a question. Yes?
Do I ever know of a situation where you need to find like a circumference bogey in there?
There's going to be lots of situations. Yes. Yes?
Can I pick up these programs?
No, that's not a good time to ask me. And I said we were going to use them. Any questions about the lesson so far? So far, any questions? No? I can move forward. It does get a little more difficult. Yes?
You said that if we don't have the formula, it would be wrong, right?
Yes.
Well, what if we were to do part of the formula, but we forgot one part of it, like instead of having a equals pi
10 squared,
r squared,
r squared.
You just went directly to a equals pi 10 squared.
No, it's wrong. So Lorenzo asked me the same question earlier. Somebody had asked me, and I said I need this formula first. This is not a formula. Once you've put this in, it's not a formula anymore. It's specific to this question, but it's not the formula. The formula is a general one for all area of circles. So have it be told that I have said this on video today, December 19th, that if you do not write the general formula, I will go back to this video, I will let you hear my voice, and then there will be proof. In court, I have proof. Yes?
Is it okay if you do pi radius squared equals a?
Good question. This is a great question. Would you be able to do pi r squared equals a? Absolutely. Absolutely. Just make sure you could do both ways, because sometimes on tests, it's the other way, and you just have to be able to recognize it, okay? This is absolutely right. Let's move forward to something a little more difficult. Let's move forward to something a little more difficult for question 3. All right, so here we go. Question 3. Now, before I get to question 3, just before I get to question 3, I'm going to ask you a question. What if I told you 25 and I asked you for what equals 25, like the same number? What's the square root of 25? What's the square, what's the number times itself that equals to 25? 5. Pretty easy because they're wholes, right? Like these are perfect squares. There are squares that are decimals, but let's go through the perfect squares, 25. So if I told you 6 squared, you would say this would equal to 36, and the square root of 36 therefore is 6. Do you see the relationship between these? If I do 4 squared equals 16, and I tell you the square root of 16, you should all know that the square root of 16 is 4. So if I say x squared, what's x squared equal to?
X.
No.
1.
Square root of? Okay, so the square root of x squared is equal to?
X.
X! Very good, very good. Which is what you guys have been saying right here. You've been just saying that the x squared is the same thing as the square root of x squared. 4 squared is the square root of 16. Okay? This is important because I'm going to do question 3. And we're going to work backwards. So look at this. Everybody's watching. What is the... No, I'm giving you the area. Area equals 100 centimeter squared. So I gave you the area. But I'm going to ask you, what's the radius? Boom. What is the radius? What is the radius? I hope this is still working. Hello. Oh, yes. What is the radius? Well, what's the first thing we should do? Yes, formula. Area equals pi r squared. Now, normally, I kept giving you the radius. I gave you the diameter, which was helpful to get. But this time, which piece do I give you of this formula? The area. So I give you this is 100, which is equal to pi r squared. What do you think? Because we need r by itself. Do you guys agree this is where we're aiming for? We're aiming for r. How can I get the r by itself? Oh, I love you. Divide this by, divide it by pi, which is what we've been doing even in the circumference. To remove the pi, I divide by pi. Super. Now, what's the little problem here? What's this little problem going on over here? Can somebody give me the answer here of 100 divided by 31 point? Okay, it's a bit squishy, sorry. Let me move this down so you can still see it. So 31.84 is equal to r squared. It's not equal to r. Our objective is to get to r. Who thinks they know how to get rid of that square? How do we get rid of it? How do we get rid of it? Yes? No. No. It has something to do with over there. It has something to do with our little thing over there. So what times what equals 31.86? Okay, so let's say this was 36. Let's say this was 36. It's much easier if it was 36. What would the R be if that was 36? It would be 6, because 6 times 6 would have given me 36. If this was 100, what would this be? 10, because 10 times 10. But what did you do to the 100 to get 10? What did you do to the 36 to get 6? You use that square root. So what we're going to do is square root 31.84, and you get your R. You get your radius after square rooting it. It's a weird number because it's not a perfect square, but it's 5.64. Now, how do I know I'm right? Well, you know what? 6 times 6 is 36. So I'm pretty close. 5 times 5 is 25. So it has to be more than 5 times 5. And it has to be less than 6 times 6. So 5.64 makes sense. Uh-oh, I have some lost faces. Can I answer anybody's question? Can anybody tell me what happened if they got lost on any of these steps? Do you want me to do one more like this? Yes. Let's do one more exactly the same though. I'm not even going to ask you diameter. Question 4 is identical to question 3. Area equals 200 centimeters squared. What is the radius? So go ahead, follow the steps that I did here, and see if you can get the answer. So all you're doing is following the steps. Now I'm going to give you a pop quiz, 4 questions on today's lesson. Since you have your pop quizzes on the board, you can use the notes to follow, and they're going to be exactly like these questions. No tricks, just these questions. So what's the first thing we have to do, Brandon?
The A equals pi radius or 2 pi.
Radius squared. So the formula is area equals pi r squared. R represents the radius. Next thing we need to do. What's the second step? Bum, 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 bum. Do we have area, or do we have one of these pieces of information?
Yes.
Yes, what is it?
A area.
We have,
200 area.
oh, I gave you this. Yes, okay. I gave you the area. So area is equal to 200. And I don't know radius. I don't know radius. How do I get radius by itself? I know that the next step, I can get radius squared by itself. How? How? Yeah. Good. So take this. Since it's multiplied here, can be removed by dividing pi. So we need to remove it. Place it under the 200. And now you have 200 divided by pi. Who can tell me what that is, 200 divided by pi? Because it's going to leave me with my radius squared.
63.69.
60?
3.69.
Like this?
Yeah.
And now the last step. Let's pretend, guys, this was 64. Let's round it to 64 because it might be clearer to you what radius is going to equal to. This is actually going to be a whole number. What's the whole number times itself that will equal to 64? What times what? What times itself? 8 times 8 equals 64. So if I square root this, check so. If I square root this, take out your calculators, press 64, square root, or some of you have the square root button first, square root, then 64. You got to know your calculator for this. It'll give you 8. And how do I test it? How can I say, hey, I'm not sure if I press the right button on my calculator. How can I test it? Yes, 8 times 8. Whatever your answer is, clear your calculator and use that and do 8 times 8 and see, does it come out to 64? And if it does, then you're right. So the radius is 8. Yes.
Miss, I got 63.69.
Yes.
The first one, and I got 7.9.
Yes, perfect. I just wanted to show with a whole number that you can, just so that it's visible, a bit more visible, okay? But yes, you are absolutely right. Now, what if, check, listen, please listen, please listen. What if the question was not what's the radius, but what's the diameter?
Multiply by 2.
What would I do down here? What would I do at the end? Would I follow the same steps?
Yes.
Until I got to the very end where I do what? I multiply by 2 because I need 2 radiuses to make the diameter. So if the question here was not radius, but what is the diameter, you would still do the same steps, times it by 2, and your diameter would equal to 16 because times 2. Are we good? So my next question is that. So let's do question 5. Question 5 in our notebooks. Question 5, if the area equals 50 meters squared, what's the diameter? And I'm going to give you a minute to write. Are you going to write C equals pi d?
No.
Why?
Because
Because it's not circumference. Am I going to write A equals pi d?
No.
You cannot write A equals pi d. This doesn't even make any sense. What am I going to write? A equals pi r squared. You have to have this formula. Even though this is not the information they gave you, you will definitely go down to get it. Ça va? I will give you a few minutes to follow these steps. Make sure you understand. If now's the time, right? Now's the time. Now's the time to ask me. Not tomorrow morning. Now's the time. If you're not comfortable seeing me now, circle what you don't understand and come see me at the end of the period when we sit down and do a bit of work. But you are having a pop quiz, so I suggest now or never for your questions. Yes?
I can't find the square root of the 10 on my calculator.
Okay. Let's check that out. This one here at the bottom, if I'm not mistaken. So you would have the second inverse that. So let's say we do 25, inverse this, or this. The second part. Yes?
I have the answer.
You have the answer. We're gonna wait one more minute. Yes?
I just checked the square root of pi.
Oh, cool.
It's 1.77.
Cool. Now, so did you here? Did you put 50? Because that's what the A is. Did you do that? Equals pi r squared. Did you do that? Okay, so that's what happened though, right? Because all I know so far is the A. Now, I need to go down all the way till I get r, just like I did here. So I'm going to divide by pi. Do you understand that I removed it by division?
Yeah.
And now I left myself with r squared. So what's 50 divided by pi? What's 50 divided by pi? 15 point. I'm going to put 16. I'm going to put 16 just for the sake that you can tell what the square root of 16 is without your calculator. What's the square root of 16 without your calculator? 4, because 4 times 4 equals 16. So the square root of 16 is equal to 4. Now I have my radius. Was that the question? No, but let me tell you, if you get this far, you've got a lot of marks because you've done a lot of work. Hopefully you'll know that it's really easy just to get to the diameter. What do I do to radius to get my diameter? Times it by 2, which means that my diameter is equal to 8. That is the end of our lesson today. We will use our notes to do a pop quiz.